Hello there, and welcome back to the Happy, Healthy Hustle podcast, where we explore the intersection of health, happiness, and productivity. In this episode today, we have a wonderful guest, and I can't wait for you to meet her. Sydney Torres is a certified functional health coach. She helps women balance their hormones naturally so that they can live life on their own terms. With that, welcome, Sydney. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited just to be here and just to chat with you.
Yeah, we're going to actually focus on a few fun and juicy topics. And I'm going to get started because Sydney is certainly super knowledgeable. As you just heard, she's a certified functional health coach. So I would like to figure out why and how can we become an advocate of our own health? What would you recommend, Sydney?
Gosh, that's such a great question. I would say we have to just always become our own health advocates, because basically in this day and age, nobody else is going to care about your health like you do. And, like, how many times have you gone to the doctor and you've mentioned your health complaint and you've been blown off, or you haven't been taken seriously, or you've been told that your lab work is normal, but yet you still know something's not right because you just feel horrible. I think a good starting place is to start learning more about your own body. Just have having that body awareness and seeing what things work for you, meaning what foods to eat, what foods make you feel good, what foods make you feel bad. I think is a really good starting place, because what we put in our mouth is either going to help us and push us towards health, or if we don't put good things in our body, it's going to push us in a direction that we don't want to go, which would be unhealthy and pushing us more towards that diseased state. So I would say, first and foremost, number one, just having that body awareness and just making the best food decisions that you can for yourself and for your family.
That's so important, because the more you connect with your body, the more you learn to listen what your body needs. And it could even vary day by day or week by week, depending on, especially if you think about women, we have cycles that we go through, and our bodies need different things depending on where you are in that cycle right there. So how can we get started in finding the voice of our body? I mean, because at the beginning, you might be like, I don't really know. Usually ice cream makes me feel good, but I know it's maybe not the best thing for me. So how do people get started in finding that maybe healthier foods are what make them feel good? Do you have a recommendation on an easy way to get started?
I think a really good, easy, simple way is just what foods, just kind of like stepping back a little bit and just asking yourself, what foods make me feel really good? Meaning, when you eat this particular food, how do you feel? Does it give you energy? Or after you eat it, do you just want to become a couch potato and do nothing? Another thing that I also like to do, which I know can be very challenging for some, but I feel that this really, really helps. Just basically keeping a food journal for a minimum of 7 days. And I used to be the type of person where, when this was recommended to me, somebody's like, yeah, you should really keep a food journal. This way you can track how you feel, if you had any adverse reactions. And I was just like, oh gosh, no, I am not going to write down what I ate. It's just going to be too time consuming. But when I was going through my own health challenge with my gut and with my hormones and with food, I got to a place where I could not eat anything. It was bad. So it kind of like forced me to start writing down what I ate. And it was actually a blessing in disguise, because once I started to journal everything, I was able to start now to make connections between what I was eating and how I was actually feeling physically and mentally. And then, like at the end of the week, I would just sit down and I would review it, and I would say, oh my gosh, I've been eating, X, Y, and Z food, but it was just making me feel horrible. So then I said, okay, well, if that's making me feel horrible, let me switch it up. So I would just have to kind of like switch out the foods that didn't make me feel good, and then just start to add in the good foods. I started going to the farmer's market in my local neighborhood, and then just not only was I supporting like my community, but supporting like local farmers, and the produce was good. And a lot of times, the cool thing about going to your local farmers market is they'll let you sample the food. They will have like, usually they'll have like little trays out or something. And you could even ask them before you purchase it, like, oh, hey, do you mind if I sample this? So I think that's just another great way, is just to, ask for a sample if you're at the farmer's market, and just kind of pushing yourself outside of your comfort zone to try new things, try new foods or new experiences that you weren't open to before. Because I think once we have like that open mind, just so much good comes out of it. And then you try something new and you're like, hey, wait a minute, I like this. And, it also gives you kind of like trying those new foods. It gives you like they say, you should eat the rainbow of foods. And now when you're open, you just have more opportunity to eat more of the rainbow foods, and you'll just have more diversity for not only for yourself, but for your cells as well. They'll really like it too.
Well, this is amazing that you're bringing up so many great points there. So I like the food diary, because I'm certainly with you. It sounds really intimidating and it sounds somewhat onerous, but at the same time, you have to take care of your body. And I don't remember really what I ate yesterday, so I would have to start writing it down too. And then looking back at the end of the week is sometimes actually a very neat exercise in general, because it also shows how your mood fluctuates throughout the week. And you could even maybe identify certain foods that your body needs on certain days, because those days might maybe more stressful at work or maybe in your personal life, and that you might want to add those foods as a preventative measure on those days to create a little bit more of a booster, especially if you need that on those days. I also love the fact with the farmers market, because I go to the farmers market all the time. And I take my children, and they are sometimes, apprehensive about trying new foods. So the samples are amazing. I remember they sometimes give out little wedges of oranges, and my children are sometimes like, oh, I don't want to peel an orange. But then they get the wedge of the orange. You're like, well, no, actually, this is super easy. I don't even need to peel it. I could just cut it in like quarters, and I could just eat out the meat of the orange. I don't need to even like peel it and get it all messy. So those are such amazing points right there. And I want to kind of come back to this food and mood connection. What are maybe some foods that you could eat to boost your mood? Do you have something to recommend us to where you're feeling like, oh, I need to eat this. This will bring me in a good mood?
Yeah, I think this is a really good question, but we have to realize that we're all bio-individual. So the food that I eat that's going to boost me up and make me feel good is not necessarily going to be the food that you're going to eat. So this is a good opportunity to play around, try different things and find that collection of foods that increase your energy. For example, like what works, I'll just kind of like share some of my favorite things.
Go for it.
I love to make smoothies. And now that the weather is getting hotter and it's spring, I'm just like, okay, I've been like chomping at the bit for smoothies because I live in a place where it snows. So it was Christiana, it was like way too cold for me just to be making smoothies during the winter time. Like I wouldn't like, obviously more of those warm foods, but I just started back my smoothie. I brought it back maybe like a week and a half ago. And I love moringa. I just love to put the moringa powder in my smoothie because it not only, it just has so many great benefits. It's like loaded with iron, it's loaded with magnesium, it's got a little bit of potassium in there. And I can just tell when I mix it in there, it gives me that energy that I need just to like really get myself going, because I am not a coffee drinker. I've never liked coffee. I've never liked the smell of coffee. So I don't use like that caffeine per se to get me going. I love my moringa powder. With my
What is moringa?
Moringa, it's like an herb from Asia that it's like they ground it up into a powder. And it just has so many health benefits. You know, it helps with like joints, it helps with mood, it helps, you know, to get some of your minerals in there. So it's just like, it checks off a lot of the healthy benefits on that, on your checklist. So I like that. I love just eating fresh fruit. I love to eat like raspberries, blueberries, blackberries. Those are some of like my favorite things that just kind of like give me energy and kind of like boost me up. I think more of the fruits boost me up more so than like anything else.
Oh, those are great tips. And I've seen moringa, and because I teach marketing, I remember that I want to say it was 2022 or 2023 had a trend that was called moringa moment. And I told my students about it, and they researched it too. And I love that you're adding it into smoothies. That sounds super simple. And I'm sure that many supermarkets will have the moringa powder, given that it was identified as a trend. You can probably find it in conventional supermarkets as well. And then just add a little bit and get a feeling for how it resonates with your body. Because as you said, we are all different. And that's the beauty of it, that your moringa moment might not be necessarily at all my moringa moment, but in the same way, you can also maybe use moringa in a lot of different ways. Maybe you can even bake with it, or you could maybe, you know, just sprinkle a little bit on top of a granola. So just play around with foods, just you play around with what type of foods you eat. So how you use them and what you eat is sometimes the beauty of it. There are no rules for things. So let's maybe talk a little bit about, now we are preventing things, we're eating healthy, we're listening more to our body. What else could we do? And maybe let's talk a little bit about, now you're really not feeling well and you need to go and seek out a doctor, and you know, you go in and you tell them about your history. Maybe you're even bringing your food diary along to really show what homework you have done already. What else could we do when we try to really seek out some professional advice?
I would say one of the biggest things, and I'm really trying to spread the word and just help people, is, along with being our own health advocates, I think it's so important for us to learn how to start reading our own blood lab work. And when I say this, I'm not saying that we have to be an expert. I'm not saying that at all. What I'm saying is we need to know the basics. So, because how many times have you gone to the doctor and you've had like some sort of condition? And what's the first thing they do? They always run blood lab work. So once that lab work comes back, you go back into the office, or they'll call you on the phone and they'll say, okay, Sally patient, your blood work is normal. But they say it's normal, but why is it I'm still feeling horrible? Why is it I'm still having symptoms? It could be like hormones, digestion, bloating, gas. It's just like, okay, pick your symptom and insert it here. And I just also want to say that if the doctor is telling us that our blood lab work is quote unquote normal, and you're still having symptoms, I can tell you right now, that is not normal. Something's going on with inside your blood work that is causing that downstream effect. And it's about getting to the root cause of why and what is causing this outer manifestation of these different signs and symptoms. So this is where knowing the basics of our blood lab work. So if you go into the doctor, like I said, and they say, oh, it's normal, you as a patient can say, you know what, could you print out and mail me a copy of my blood lab work? Or if you have one of those, what do they call it, Christiana? The patient portal, you could log into, you could log into that, and then you could access it that way, and you could print it off. So it's easier for you to go through, and then just start going through maybe the different markers, maybe going through your, your WBC, which stands for the white blood count. Maybe if you're having, because I know I deal with a lot of people that have thyroid issues, and just knowing how to read a basic thyroid panel, looking at your TSH, your free T4, your free T3, your thyroid antibodies, your reverse T3, just knowing the basics, gosh, it would help prevent so much. And then you can start to become your own health detective. And then you can, go back to your doctor and say, hey, I noticed, I was looking at my own blood lab work, and I noticed something is not right. It could be either in range or with out of range. Let's talk about this. And you can, dig a little bit further. And I would say if your doctor is, what's the word I want to use? If he is resistant, I don't want to say he, if your doctor is resistant and they don't want to help you, then that would be a great time to find a new doctor, because our doctors should be empowering us as patients. Our doctors should want to nurture our bodies. Our doctors should want to, if we're on medication, our doctors should be helping us to get off of our medication and not putting us on medications.
Yeah, that's great advice, because if you do the blood work, your insurance or yourself, if you don't have insurance, is paying for it. So you don't only have rights to find out from your doctor whether it's normal or not normal, but you should also be able to get the actual results. And of course, with the internet, you could pretty much research any value and figure out exactly what's going on and read more about it, because the more knowledgeable you are and the more aware you are really what is considered normal, the more you can start looking out whether that's for certain foods or whether that's for certain functions in your body, and then become your own health advocate. So I like how you're really empowering us to figure out, the science behind it. And it doesn't even have to be complicated. It could just be a few values you're looking for, but you're noticing that maybe something seems amiss, especially for women. Frequently we say, oh, it's just in your head. And that's unfortunate, because there's not necessarily always that empowerment that you feel, and you need to keep going. So I love, Sydney, that you are empowering women so that they can live life on their own terms and keep going, and that you're giving them the strength and the courage to dig down a little bit deeper. How can we find you and get a hold of you if we want to learn a little bit more? I know you have your own amazing podcast, but where else can we find you? Tell us a little bit about you and your ways of getting in touch with you.
Yeah, I would say the best way to get in contact with me is you could always email me. I'm always I'm always here to like talk to people. It's like, if you want to talk, you just hit me up, and I am just always willing to talk. I'm always willing to listen. My email is info@balancehealthnow.com. And also I have a website. It's www.balancehealthnow, VHC, which is virtual health clinic, abbreviated.com. So that's just another place to kind of learn a little bit more. And, like, never be afraid, because, like, so many people are just like overwhelmed, especially with the internet and just searching their different condition. It gets overwhelming, and a lot of people just don't know where to start. And I always say a good starting place is just to open a conversation, and contact Christiana, or open a conversation with somebody else that deals with your particular, condition. But just I encourage you, just don't be afraid to ask, and don't be afraid to start, because that's the hardest part, is just starting. And once you start, you get that momentum built up, and it goes up from there. So all good things come from that.
Very good. And it's really good and honest to share, because some other people might have the same experience. So you might actually had it yourself, or maybe you had another patient that had that. And then once you hear about it, you can already, just by acknowledging that the person experiences it, already help mentally and making them feel like, oh, there's actually some validation to this. There's some truth to this. It's not just in my head. It's really something that I'm experiencing and that I'm feeling I'm acknowledged with. And now I'm getting that empowerment to learn more about it. And I'm feeling I'm becoming my own health advocate. Wonderful advice. I really love it, Sydney. I so appreciated having you here today on the Happy Healthy podcast. And with that, we're wrapping up this wonderful episode. If you have any questions, please reach out to Sydney. Her contact will be in the show notes. And of course, as always, if you have any particularly topics that you want to hear, let me know. I look forward to hearing more from you. And as always, stay happy, healthy, and keep hustling. Thank you so much.
Thank you.